I want to give you some value in this podcast, and thank you for listening. So let me give you something useful right now. Most men don't struggle because they're weak. They struggle because they're unclear. So not being clear. That's why I built the Manhood Mastery Quiz. It takes only 2 minutes, and it shows you exactly where you're crushing it and where life is crushing you, and what actually deserve your focus next. So you will get instant results, no email rabbit hole, just a clear snapshot of your life as a man today. Take the quiz, links in the show notes. Clarity is power, and power changes everything. Evan Cudworth is known as the world's first party coach, but this isn't about partying, it's about aliveness. So since 2021, Evan has helped thousands find what he calls the party within. A simple, structured way to be social, connected, and fully alive without relying on alcohol, drugs, or endless scrolling. His work's been featured in GQ magazine, the Washington Post, and the LA Times. But what really matters is this: lives like time is borrowed, and he's here to help others live more and regret less. Evan, welcome to the show.
Morgan, thank you for having me, brother. I always love to start by asking, what was the last party that you've been to? And what was that experience like for you?
Thank you for asking that question. So I've been drunk once in my life when I was 40. I've only been partying sober, love dancing. It's a long story why I've been sober my whole life, but it has its reasons. So the last party, does it count when I'm having a stay-at-home party with my kids? We're
Yes.
cranking up music, and we're doing that a lot at
Yeah.
home. So maybe like last Friday, we're just like putting on music, we're dancing with the kids, we're having a good time. So yeah, a small party,
Yeah.
I would say.
Well, that's the perfect place to start because I think part of why I was put on this planet is to redefine what partying might mean for people. And it's actually interesting. The word party, if you trace its etymology, is actually a contronym, which means the word means its own opposite. So
All right.
party can mean like to take part in, like to become a part of. But
All right.
partir, right, is also to split apart, right, and to separate, to party. And I think that's why partying for so many of us brings up a lot of emotions. Either we love, we regret, or partying's not for me because it's this feeling of like connection. Maybe you're connected to your family and your kids, and that's great. But also maybe you've been to parties where, hey, everyone else is drinking and not on the same level and I feel separate from these people.
Mm.
And so just briefly by way of introduction, I got into this party coach thing because I was let go from my job at a music fest as a music label in the pandemic. And I remember at the time we were trying to do parties on Zoom where people were like DJing and
Remember
trying
those
that.
days?
And I remember being on one of those Zooms and I was drinking. And long story short, I remember being drunk and kind of dancing in my bathroom, shutting my computer, and just being alone with, you know, my drunkenness and whatever I was doing. I was like, this is not partying. What I'm doing right now. Like, this is not how we're supposed to connect to this. And full disclosure, I got into this party coach thing because a lot of people, I wanted to create an identity where I could party for my lifestyle and I could turn partying into something for life. And what I've learned over the last 4 to 5 years is that I'm here to serve the party. And I believe that by serving the party, we can save humanity because partying cuts through politics, it cuts through all of our fear and indecision. And we've all been a part of a party in one way or another that is really special. So I I'm a seeker. I call myself a party coach, but I feel like I know less than when I started. And I hope that our conversation could be more one of like curiosity. And what people take away from here is that they can look at partying as like a playground, as a place to explore personal development and other things instead of just being in your head all the time.
Love how you're framing that, setting that up. So before you were the party coach and before like GQ and LA Times, and from my research, can you take us back to your early 20s after your mom passed? So who did you become in that season of your life? And what were you trying to escape or find?
So you mentioned right before here, was it your dad that had passed?
Yeah.
Yeah. What age were you when that happened?
Oh, I was like 25. Like I still get super emotional like just talking about it.
I was 25 when my mother
Really?
passed.
Yeah.
And grief is, for me, it's harder to talk about, if only because the more I've experienced in my life, the less I know what to say to people and offer to them. You know, when I was first dealing with it, I had all this advice on this is how you should deal with it, and this is how to feel your feelings, and this is what you could do. And I'm just less and less convinced that I could have accepted any advice. You know, nothing that people told me, I don't know, could have made much of a difference. And I think grief is one of the greatest gifts that we have. It is a catalyst for us to, for me, it was, I'll speak about myself. For me, it was a catalyst to dive into my insecurities, my addiction, my nihilism, the way that I was escaping a life that was not in my body. And I got to hold my mom's hand as she passed, and she lived such a beautiful life. She was a gardener and a great partier, but she did so in a way that was very, she'd bring flower arrangements and just curate these small, intimate gatherings that were just love embodied. And losing her, I found solace in the party scene, and I'm so grateful for it because I think if I didn't have partying, I don't think I would be here. I don't think I'd be alive. I was so angry and lost that if I didn't have the people and the connections in the party scene, I just didn't know. I didn't want to be in my body, and I don't know if I would be alive. So to answer that, I guess I'm grateful for grief because it's made me more human and more alive to be able to experience that, even though I still miss my mom every day.
I just need to take a deep breath here. Well, thank you for sharing that. So,
What do you miss about your dad?
shit, he was my like. I start to cry every time.
Yeah.
Like, I've done like public speaking for many years, and once I tried to have a picture of him to speak about a lesson that he gave me, but I I just couldn't keep it together.
Yeah.
So I don't know why. Like I have ideas about just accepting. Of course, I'm accepting of losing him, but yeah, there's so many things about him that I miss, and a lot of things that I wish he could see. I was yet not married. I was yet not a father. I was like this lost kid trying to create the next big thing within my with a startup, and like just completely lost. I didn't have the chance to just show him that I've become what I am today. And just like one of the great sorrows would be that I wish that he could just like meet my wife. I know that they would just like love each other so much, and that he would meet our kids because, yeah.
What do you have anything that you offer to people that are going through grief, that are losing parents or people?
It's, when I lost my dad, one of my best friends, Ellen, she had lost her dad, and she reached out and just say, I also lost my dad. And if you want to talk about it, I'm here. There's nothing you can say or do.
That's all I do. I don't
Yeah.
offer it. I was like, I'm here if you'd like to talk.
Yeah.
And some people connect years later.
Yeah. Avoidance or self destruction. But for you, I started to feel that it can also mean love, belonging, and community. And that is what's sparked my curiosity to have this conversation.
Party scene gave me a place where I could be both of those things, where I could deal with emotions and things, maybe not in a healthy way, but I could deal with them in the physical plane. as opposed to endlessly cycled in my head. And as a personal development junkie who spent 15 years taking every course and doing every thing, and I have a diary where I will like rate my number every day, like how I'm feeling 1 through 10, and I have hundreds of thousands of words and spreadsheets and data and aura rings, and I can map all of my thinking and optimization. But the party scene gives me a place to, if not turn that off, to be a part of. And I think a great way to talk about this is, are you familiar with like Apollo and Dionysus? It's like the Greek
Yeah.
gods.
No.
Yeah. So Apollo, kind of god of form. Think about like a sculpture or a structure behind me, right? It's a representation. Dionysus, god of music, right? It is formless. It might have a mathematical undertone, but it is the representation is abstract. And to find healing in the abstract manifestation of what it means to be human, I think is really healthy. And this is somewhere where I've kind of come, not full circle, but I feel like I've grown. Is initially, my path through becoming a party coach was talking about partying sober and how important it was to party sober. And I'm more and more convinced now than ever. I consider myself kind of a Taoist of, think yin yang, dark light balance of things, that it's really important to accept darkness into our life, to integrate it, to have places where we can go where that is, you're allowed to be that. And I think that partying it's having a little comeback in the last couple, but over the last 4 to 5 years, when I started this, we've had this big sobriety wave, which is great, that has swept the world. And also, I think people are lonelier and disconnected and feeling like this is whatever we're doing now is worse. And so I can't be sure, but I think that we're going to have to learn how to play with our darkness and party is not all love and happiness and connection, and numbing and escape and places where you can be naughty and dirty and messy in front of people you love or strangers. Like, that's really important. I'll close with one thing of just connecting this grief. I spent a decade of therapy and healing work and all of those things, and part of it was time and part of that helped, but I wouldn't call it closure, but a feeling of acceptance for me was I was invited to do a peyote ceremony in Joshua Tree with a Native American tribe. And it was supposed to be one of those, like a bunch of LA people go out and do this type of thing. But it turned out one of the elders that was supposed to lead the ceremony had passed away a couple weeks before. And what was, I think, was traditionally would have been more of a kind of celebratory ceremony turned into a grieving ceremony for this elder. And now I'm gonna his family for 8 hours as we sat there in the cold, wept and cried in a language I couldn't understand. But being just witnessing for a long period of time, like them weeping and showing their emotion. And then we did the exact same thing at night two. And I tried to escape. I was like, I do not want to be here. I was trying to get an Uber back to LA. And they were like, you can't leave. You have to stay here. And on that second night, as again, this crying and weeping was happening, I had a little crystal. And I remember just holding it up to the moon and being like, I surrender. I said those words that I had never said them in that way before, but just being like, I surrender to this darkness that I feel, and I'm not going to try to push it away anymore. And that was this kind of the start, the pre-start of just kind of this acceptance and love of the darkness and the light that I think the party scene is all about.
I would love if you could expand on darkness, because I hear this in the self-help space a lot, shadow work and darkness. Could we just zoom in, give an example? What does it mean to embrace it? If you can be as specific as possible, would be
Yeah.
helpful.
Yeah. It might be best to maybe start with something that is there a dark part of yourself that you have come to accept or that you are resisting accepting?
That's why I'm asking this question, because it's hard for me to point the finger on it.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go a few layers beneath what is on in the current sphere of things, and just daily life. So when I train martial arts, for example, I feel that I have a beast inside of me. I feel that I have power I feel that I have, the willingness to hurt another person. I can also see, I don't know if I would call it darkness, but vengeance. If somebody
Mhm.
would, like, there was this man that talked to my wife in a super disrespectful way when I wasn't present and I
Mhm.
heard about it. And that just gave me so much rage, and it led into, let's just call it a confrontational situation. So those are just like the examples I got.
Yes, lovely. So an innate violence or this need for revenge or to make things to equalize what you see as injustice in the world. What would the world be like if men didn't have that desire? What would the world look like?
Yeah. If we didn't have that, like, yeah, maybe we wouldn't have the need or the capability to protect. Maybe.
Yeah, it may be, right? And I do believe that we are spiraling upward in evolution. And also that the friction of that spiral are these feelings, are what we might label as darker parts of ourselves, but are actually a very natural, necessary part of growth. Because without them, life becomes frictionless. I don't know if have you seen there's been some articles lately about friction maxing in 2026. Do you understand that as a concept?
Completely missed that.
Yeah. So it comes from, so one area that this manifests, a lot of people that are, and myself included, I started to rely on perhaps AI to, write some of my email. The way that I booked this podcast, AI was like writing my email for this, which I'm not proud of, not happy of that, right? But I'm becoming abstract from the language and I'm frictionless through optimization. I'm wiping out friction from my life. And that might feel good, but it creates slop. It creates a distance from the human part of what this is. And I think a reaction that a lot of men in particular are having these days is we're being asked to iron out parts of our that desire or that need to be in friction, to be in our bodies and connect and to protect and to change. And when we see things happening in the world and we are told, you can't do anything about this or you don't bring any value, that manifests in all kinds of other ways, with the drugs, the alcohol, the scrolling, the porn, all of those other things, because that creates a friction in our lives. It's like, ooh, I could be in friction with myself. I'll create this chaos and these problems in my own soul and body instead of bringing value to a world out there.
So you've been talking about finding the party within. What does that actually mean? And what's the biggest lie men believe about needing alcohol, drugs, or status to feel socially free?
So the party within flips the script on what you might think partying is about. I think a lot of us are taught like a party is to you go and you are confident and you receive validation and you receive all of these things for the party. And that to get there, you either consume drugs or alcohol, you buy fancy clothes, you buy a bottle, you get the right women or men on your shoulders, and you step into these places with all these things. And the party within flips the script and says, what value are you bringing to the party? How are you being of service? And this was effective for me because I had always brought I'm going to be the person who hosts the pregame and does and brings the drugs and like brings all of that energy. And when that was no longer working for me, I had to figure out, what do I still bring any value to the party scene? And so I've developed these 7 archetypes that are roughly mapped on some of, like, you might call the Enneagram,
Wow.
nurturers or enthusiasts and things like this. So I work with clients on helping them determine maybe some archetypes that they might want to try on that they haven't tried before. Maybe you've always been the person who starts the party. Do you become the person who is grounded, who steps into the background, who is doing the dishes? The party within is doing the dishes, right? It's it's being of service to the party. And best part is when clients send me a voice note or call me after one of these, and they're like, I had no anxiety for like the 7 hours last night. And I was like, well, what changed? And they were like, I had a purpose. Like I created a purpose for myself. And so at a very simple way, it sounds simple, but it takes, like anything else, it's kind of an alchemical process. We have to break down nostalgia and all these other things and to find these ways to be of service. But the idea is that we serve humanity by bringing purpose, by being the purpose that others need in the party.
Can you share an example where you're coaching somebody? What archetype of party dude or animal they are, and what changed for them?
Yeah. Ooh, I, for a period, had a lot of men coming to me. I want to, I'm good when I'm going out with my bros, but I can never talk to girls when I go out. Right.
That's a great
Uh,
one.
right. So that the broy frat bro, knows that's kind of who I am. And creating, so I was like, what do you want to feel when you go out to a party? And again, I heard a couple weeks ago, it was Daniel
Yeah.
Muller. I was speaking about masculinity and men's feelings. Like, do anybody really care what men feel, right? And so, of course, for these guys to come out and hear a party coach ask them, "What do you want to feel at a party?"
Exactly.
Some of them fire me. Some of them fire me on the spot, right? They're like, "This is not what I wanted to talk about." Yeah. But usually they'll say something like, I want to feel valued, or I want to feel seen, or I want to feel special. And so this person that I'm thinking of specific was just talking about, like, I want to feel seen, right? By people of the opposite sex, but he wasn't feeling that. And so I was like, all right, your job at the next 3 parties is to go out and help 10 to 15 girls feel seen at the parties and expect absolutely nothing in return. And I was like, my suggestion, don't discriminate who you're going to go up to, right? Don't go up to just people you find attractive, or just try to find people that look like maybe they don't feel seen and help them feel seen. Yeah, I'm going to get emotional talking about this, but it's like, these like fratty dudes who maybe have thought about this, but come back and they're like, as soon as I did that, people started coming up to me and were seeing me talking to these people. And suddenly I was swarmed with attention, and people love to be around my energy. And we can get into kind of the spiritual side of what I think is happening around this, which is when we become portals for the energy that we want to feel, we're much more able to accept those feelings, right? But when we get in our super masculine closed off of like, I have to demonstrate this before, oftentimes we repel that energy. So becoming a portal to those feelings opens up the possibility that you can feel more seen through that. Was that specific enough? Did that make sense?
Yeah, that made total sense. And I started reflecting about that issue after like hearing Simon Sinek on a podcast. He was dealing with the feeling of loneliness, and he was like really open about it. And people were like, "You being lonely, like Simon Sinek out there speaking to the world, like getting millions of downloads on podcasts." And his cure was to help other people out of loneliness. And that
Yes.
brings me to this saying, you teach what you most need to learn, but you should also give what you most need. Something along those lines.
Yeah. Why do you think I became a party coach?
Yeah. To find the party within.
To find the party within, baby.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I felt this when I quit caffeine. But some men, they quit substances, but they also quit joy, spontaneity, and connection. They get clean, but kind of dead inside. So how do you help men keep the aliveness without going back to self-destruction?
Yeah.
If it makes sense.
Perfect sense. And there's maybe a 3-part answer. The first thing to start with might seem obvious, but it's service, right? And we learn that depending on where you're at in like recovery circles or things like that, what you just said, like being of service is important, right? Party within. How do you go and do that? And also, how do you find an outlet for your darker, messier side that you can accept and love without it triggering you into use, right? So I like things like martial arts, I think are a really great thing. And redefining partying. For me, I was I was never even close to like an everyday drinker and everything. I was like Friday, 5 p.m., like boom, let's go. Right? Like that I had this in my body that's like, I deserve this. And so Friday afternoons when I was not drinking were really hard for me. And so what I started to do was I was going to a CrossFit gym and I started bringing a boombox on Fridays and I would DJ for like 4 hours and lift weights. And I got a whole, and we called it dance WOD, dance workout of the day. And we'd get a bunch of people there and we'd work out all Friday nights. After 3 weeks of that, I was not even thinking about booze at all. I was partying at the gym with people. And then I started doing things like I would schedule workout classes for 6 or 7 a.m. on Saturday and Sunday mornings at like a hot yoga where there would be really good music. And it was like, that was my after party, right? I would like wake up and be going and dancing and doing fitness and being in my body. But something that I notice is I think sometimes people get too attached to the I just have to be good all the time. And so this is the third part of it is, you know, allow yourself to like break some rules in a way that feels acceptable to you. And I don't know how to I always struggle with the specifics on that, but
Because I'm going to ask you about the specifics.
yeah. Yeah. Um
Yeah.
yeah. So okay, so here's an example for me. So I decided to, like, when I wasn't drinking, I went to Burning Man. I've been to Burning Man twice, completely sober. And I felt good in my sobriety. And sleep was really important for me, right? I would really try to sleep. But there was a couple days where I was like, I'm going to just stay up all night on no sleep and I'm going to just be crazy. And I was dancing all over and I ran into like a naked bike ride and I like was naked in front of a whole bunch of people. And I was just like going on these things that I don't think I would have ever thought to do, in any other way. But like allowing myself to be just weird and crazy, man, that just like saved my life.
Mm.
And I think if I would have been too afraid of what I might be in that, I don't know. Everyone has you being okay in your heart and soul and trusting yourself that you can accept those things. That's a very personal thing. And that's why I think having a coach or a community and people that you could trust to be in is really important. I don't suggest anyone tries to do that stuff by yourself, but finding a way and being relentless about finding a way where you feel like you can truly let go, I think is pretty vital.
I get that outlet when I dance in big crowds and the music needs to be like really loud, but not always. Like, of course, I've done a lot of like inner work, so it's easy for me to just like let loose and be goofy. But if we're zooming out, I can see that men are getting lonelier than ever, and yet no one teaches us how to make friends as adults. So, from what you've seen, what's actually broken in male friendships today?
What's broken in male friendships today, I think, is a reliance on nostalgia, an over reliance on, well, this is what we used to do. And if we can't do this anymore, nothing's going to work. And this can show up in ways of, arrested development, perpetual adolescence, Peter Pan syndrome. I'm definitely one of them. But, people that are still just playing video games or showing up at the same thing all the time, like that can be really supportive. But I feel like the fear of starting something new or trying to like accepting new things into your life after a certain period of time, I think is really hard for people. So, example, when I moved to LA, I was having a hard time making friends, and people didn't want to do what I wanted to do, which was, go and I like to go to weird like raves and fitness meets wellness, and but I wasn't really matching up with friends. So I was like, well, what do people in LA like to do? They love moon circles and astrology. And I know nothing about any of this. I thought it was all BS. But I found some friends and I found this like kind of witchy LA girl who liked astrology. And I was like, do you want to start a moon circle? these were friends and we decided to start a moon circle. And every full and new moon on the beach in Venice Beach, we started just gathering and inviting people to come. And it was like a skeptics moon circle. So it was for people who didn't really believe in astrology to
All
come to
right.
this moon circle.
I love the
And
twist.
so we would kind of talk about, and we developed these rituals and these things. And pretty soon, we did this every other week, 2 times a month for 2 to 3 years. And we had 50, 60, 70 people. And pretty soon we were doing yoga. We would bring in artists and like we would have musicians that I knew from my music days would come and play for us. And we formed this bond and this friendship around something that all of us kind of believed in, but it was just something new. And the idea that this was possible, but it required showing up when I didn't want to over and over again and rallying people. And so some of my best friends to this day are still out of the birth of that thing that happened. So yeah, try new things. Don't be so reliant on nostalgia, and try some stuff that you might not even understand, and you'll be surprised.
This is so freaking interesting because this was recently I heard. I can't remember in what podcast it was, but it had to do with male friendships. And they specifically said that men need structure, structured events, like or skill acquiring
Yes.
to get to they're not just like, okay, let's just like meet and do nothing. Let's just be friends. They need to do something that has a structure, and that is exactly what you were saying with these moon circles. And I also saw this when I started the largest Scandinavian cold plunging community here in
Yes.
Sundsvall, where I'm at. So those were also structured event on a given time on a given day, and these were the rules. Just come. You need to be happy when you're here. Whatever you feel or do after this, we don't give a damn about it. But we are happy polar bears. That was the name of the group. Sweden polar bears, happy swimmers. People
Yes.
just got together, and
Yeah.
I was basically just like looking for a bunch of like a couple of friends, new friends that also loved cold plunging, because I was doing that by myself for 10 years, and then it just like blew up quickly. And we also
Yeah.
had that full moon cold plunging ceremony with the yoga girl.
Yes. Yeah.
So structured events is what I'm hearing you say.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, and a caveat to that, because I do
Hmm.
think, I personally, I don't like watching sports. It's boring to me.
Yeah.
I don't get it. But I think there's a lot of men that the structure of getting together and like watching sports and doing those things,
Yeah.
it might feel unstructured, but I do think that is kind of the structure, and like
Yeah.
why they love fantasy football or things like that
Mm.
is there's a structure and competition that goes along with it.
Yeah, makes
Yeah.
sense. Makes sense.
Yeah.
Let's go. If we getting concrete here, you move to a new city or walk into a new room. How do you actually make new male friends, like step by step?
So move to a new city, make male friends. It comes back again to service, right? What am I looking for? How do I provide that for someone else? So I moved back to Chicago about 2 years ago, and I'm sitting in a space right now I have a business partner. She had bought this building and it's in a pretty cool place in Chicago. And I wanted to bring kind of this wellness meets social life place here. And so we started doing these Sunday parties called Revive, which was sauna, ice plunge, and like Afro house music DJs on Sunday afternoons, alcohol free, but if you have other goodies that you want to bring, you can bring those. And immediately, like met so many dope people and cool people. But say you don't have the resources to, get a building and throw your own thing like that. Literally start a book club, find one other person that has one shared interest for you and do it every week. And everywhere you go, if you're in line at the grocery store and you see someone, you're like, hey, are you into, let's get a concrete example here. I don't know. Yeah. What do you have any new hobbies, or what kind of new things are you working on?
Just started Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Been doing grappling before, but Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is different, but
Yeah.
not the same. But they're similar, but it's a whole nother ball game. It feels
Yeah.
like I'm drowning.
Right. Right. But even like an invite of, hey, I'm doing this for Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I'm sure, is there maybe like a newcomer thing that they have for people? Are you allowed to
Yeah,
take
yeah.
people along on the first time? Right?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. This is another very practical thing. I create WhatsApp chats that's aligned with my hobbies or things. And if I'm in conversation with people, this at weddings all the time, right? You're sitting around the table with everyone, and you meet someone who's kind of cool, and you're like, all right, how do I connect with this person? Be like, oh, I have a WhatsApp chat. So I'm really into Taoism, so I have a WhatsApp chat around Taoism. And I was like, do you want to be in this WhatsApp chat?
Mm.
And we just sometimes send each other things that things from that relate to that, and sometimes it goes off the rails, but just creating an opportunity for people to feel like they belong, you'll have friends in no time.
Well, I fucking love this idea. That was one of the best ideas because often, like, I was at a wedding this summer and I met like a lot of cool dudes. I was like, and we like it was mutual. We both were like, okay, we need to stay connected. We need to like just grab each other's phone numbers, but then nothing happens. But
Mhm.
what you're saying, you're like solving that issue. So you're like
Yes.
taking them into the group chat and like the conversation can come more naturally. Love that.
Yes. Niching, we call it a marketing, niching down, right?
Niching down. Yeah. So you have
Which,
several niche groups.
yes, which is hard for, I don't know about you, but I want to be everything to everyone. And I've failed in my friendship groups when I try to make things too broad, right?
Mm.
When I have all the cool people I know like hop in this chat and people are like, why the fuck am I here?
Yeah, yeah.
And so like giving people a specific enough thing to opt into, and friction, right? Coming back to friction, creating a friction of, there's something specific here that I'm either going to opt in, or like, I'm not interested in this thing. But if
Yeah.
there's no structure, if it's too amorphous, but you can see I get passionate about this and I love this.
Yeah.
um
I see so many things in you in myself. Listen, I'm just
yeah.
like loving the conversation right now.
Yeah, I'm loving this too, brother. This is great. And I know that I've listened to podcasts from people and I've heard snippets of things that a lot of this stuff I've stolen from people, right? That I've
Mm.
heard on podcasts or seen in the world. And so I'm just appreciative of you making the time to do this every week, to share, to interview. I know how much time and effort and energy it takes to put all this together. And yeah, I just want to honor and that grateful for you that you're helping people, probably even more people than you even know, and people that might listen to this a year or 2 years or 5 years from now. I just acknowledge that because I think that's really cool too.
Mm. That means a lot, brother. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
And because I don't know who's listening out there, I would suggest that if you are listening, please comment on Spotify or if you're listening on this on YouTube or whatever platform, please comment and let us know what you thought of the podcast. So I know that you're listening because I get like shocked sometimes when if somebody's meeting me and they're saying like, "Yeah, I'm listening to your podcast." I'm like, and I haven't seen any sign of you listening or commenting,
Yeah.
but people are listening. The show is like is it's been really blowing up, so I'm super grateful. And these are like my small mini parties, like getting to know
Yes.
people one on one, and it leads to friendship. It leads to business partners potentially, and also new business clients.
Yes.
You never know where the conversation is going to take you.
Yes. Something's coming up for me around that too, because as we continue to define what partying might mean, and if you're still listening to this and you're still not convinced that you belong in a party or you are, sometimes I find it helpful to define things by what they're not. And at least for me, like partying is not isolation, right?
Mm,
That's like one of the few things it's not. If you're going, and some people do use parties to isolate, and I've done this a lot, right? I
mm,
will go to be alone in the crowd.
hmm.
And I would just put like, and maybe that's a good kind of gut check for people that if you're it's beautiful to be alone. and to be in meditation. And solitude and learning to be alone is one of the great gifts of my life. But when I try to think of what a party means, there's something about being a part of, right? And it's being a part of a crowd or someone who you might be interested in friendship wise or sexually or business. And being willing to be a part of is scary, but it's the best part about being human, in my opinion.
Have you suffered anything from social anxiety or that feeling of I don't belong? It's hard. It's so, one thing that like really breaks my heart, and that's why I'm so passionate about like men's work and specifically about social confidence for men, is when I see guys struggling in a party setting or in a crowded setting, and I know they're there to mingle. It could be a business event, it could be like a wedding, and I just like know that they are just like struggling there.
For sure. While I've always identified as an extrovert, it's of course masking deep insecurities about feeling like I don't belong. The only way I could belong is by overcompensating, right? By being the loudest, like the peacocking, right? Like I would
Yeah.
wear these bright outfits. And then, of course, the drugs and alcohol really masked a lot of that for a long time. And I'm realizing that I have, I think, a very normal amount of social anxiety. I don't think it's much worse than people, but I have it. And I resolve that by being of service and realizing I don't need to be the center of attention. I just need to have a purpose. Or very oftentimes, the social anxiety is a legitimate result of me knowing that I am not disciplined and showing up in my regular life and that I'm not bringing value. And it's usually a sign that I have things to work on. And the beautiful thing is that both can be true, right? I can love and accept myself and be like, yo, I'm not really showing up, but I'm going to still be of service and be purposeful here. Or I can be like, yo, I'm going to go lock in for 2 months, get my body and mind into a place that I really love. And I can walk into any party and I have no social anxiety because I know that I've done the work to look and feel really good. Yeah, I think both of those things are there, but know that both of those are legitimate paths to through social anxiety.
Yeah. If we would go into a party and to zoom in on how you're approaching or opening a conversation, what are some ways that you do that?
So returning to the earlier idea of what do you want to feel, usually I'll have themes for months or times in my life where I want to feel certain things. So right now, my word for 2026 is grounded. I was succeeding in the first half of this podcast.
You know how it goes.
I did a sauna, like a root chakra meditation before this. But my question that I ask people when I go out now for small talk is what's been making you feel grounded lately? For many years, it was what's bringing you joy. That was just my default question that I'd ask anyone because I wanted to feel joy. And
Yeah.
I felt joy everywhere all the time.
Mm.
And so, very practical advice from your party coach, anyone listening, be conscious of what you're asking people. If you're asking people, what do you do? You're probably going to constantly be feeling secure or insecure based on what you do. If you're constantly asking people about the weather and then bitching about it, you're probably going to be aligned with the weather and at mercy to the weather of whatever's around you. So, what you ask, you become a portal for the things that you want to feel in the world. So, if you want to feel more secure or feel more grounded or feel more joy, ask other people how they are achieving that thing.
And can you give some like specific examples of questions that you've coached others to start asking based
Yeah.
on what they want to feel?
Yeah. So, again, what's been bringing you joy? How are you feeling grounded? Sometimes, when people are in a place of growth, you know, what's been working and not working for you in your life? To be in that space of not toxic positivity, but wanting to connect on a deeper level with people, what's working, not working. The key is to try to keep it pretty simple and direct. And just don't overcomplicate it.
Mm.
Um, so what's something that you want to feel more of? Morgan?
I was going to say clarity, but we just got some clarity during the last couple of weeks, but it has been a big one, like in the beginning of this year. I want to feel more healthy again, like
Mm,
more energy.
yeah. Great. What's been bringing you energy lately?
Yeah, when I'm doing, it's in a school community actually. Shout out to Vanya Moves,
Yeah.
a movement program that I'm doing. Playing with
Awesome.
my kids, going out skiing now. We have like the winter season here in Sweden. Yeah.
Awesome. So this is another practical thing. I have a note on my phone of like questions, and I just have a list of questions. And so I would suggest after this podcast, open up your notes, put party questions. Number one, what's bringing you energy?
Mm.
And just start asking people that when you're at weddings or picking up the kids from or school or bringing, wherever. Just start asking people what's bringing you energy in your life. And I would love to hear in a couple weeks what comes up around that for you.
Yeah. What's bringing you energy?
Yeah.
I can pull that question off, but I can also get a sense of like for people listening, like, yeah, that's such a weird question to ask. That's like
Mm,
so like not normal, not decorum.
yeah. Yeah.
What would you say to that?
I would say if you're not willing to ask the question, you're probably not willing to experience the emotions.
Yeah, that's probably true. Have you had any clients that struggles with just like this concept of approach anxiety?
Yeah. And usually what I try to do there is find like do the work in advance, right? So if say you're invited to a house party or say you're going to a rave alone, try to message the organizers and the people and be like, hey, do you need someone to help work coat check or to stand at the door? Or do you need like any support in the back end? Like, is there some way that I could be of service to this thing? I'm not asking for a free ticket. I just like want to help out
Hmm.
and start there and do
Yeah,
it
great
digitally.
idea. Great idea.
That's how when I moved to New York initially, I wanted to go at the coolest parties, and I was just like a chaotic mess. And I was not being invited to the parties, but I started volunteering and I started like building the sets for these giant raves. And I met so many weirdos, but so many really cool people. I started to meet the organizers, and they taught me how to start to throw parties and raves. And pretty soon I was throwing my own parties. And it started from, showing up 4 hours early to like cut out glowing stars that we were like putting on the roof. But there's people that are doing that for every party, right? And
Yeah.
if you want to meet people in a non-anxious environment, just go work.
Hmm. So for a man feeling like socially stuck or awkward, do you have an example of one small experiment he could run this week to start breaking that fear?
If you're feeling socially anxious this week, start with like curiosity, and specifically not why you're socially anxious, but go ask other people, ask your friends. Ask if you go to a party and you see someone that's looking a little socially anxious, and this is the hard part, but be like, yo, I'm a little social. Like, why do you think, like, are you anxious? Like, like, just start with the curiosity of why is this emotion there?
Hmm.
If you can almost never do we as a society look down on someone who's curious, right? If someone is genuinely curious about something and is seeking an answer or wants to know something, that is a high value thing, just starting with that curiosity. So instead of pretending it doesn't exist or faking confidence or trying to be someone you're not, just be curious and be like, why is this happening? And start to converse around it. Is that specific enough?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
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 I totally get it. Can you share a party where you just like felt like really blissful? What happened? What was the party? And what stage of your life were you? What was going on?
Yeah. So we have about 9 or 10 hours, right?
Yeah, we got all night.
I say that because partying has given me the gift of the fullest life possible. And I've partied in the most beautiful beaches and the darkest, dingiest warehouses, and up in the celebrities of Beverly Hills and in the deserts of Burning Man. And I've traveled all around China. I speak in China at universities, and I've been at these back end China dive bars partying with people who none of us speak the same language, and yet we all understand exactly how we're feeling and connecting in those moments. And I've partied with my friends on motorcycles through Cambodia as we're like driving over the rice fields and stopping to dance as we heard Daft Punk coming from. This is the one I'll answer. We were on one of those like boats floating through Cambodia, and we were tired. We had been up for 2 to 3 days motorcycling, no good sleep, and weren't really in the mood for partying. But we're on this kind of lazy river, and we hear as we're coming around the corner Daft Punk going from this
That would
hostel in
be.
the middle of nowhere. And so we hop out of this thing, and pretty soon we're dancing with. There was some like British expats, but mostly I don't even know. Nobody spoke the same language. But I just was like, how that cuts through everything. Like how that could have been a very fearful thing because 2 days before, we had taken a wrong turn, and pretty soon we have AK-47s in our face. People were not on the vibe. But music and dancing and partying it's the language of humanity that surpasses any other thing.
Mm,
And so whenever I get a chance, even for a moment, to be a part of that, it's a gift.
mm. You mentioned Daft Punk. Daft Punk just like gets my blood flowing. So
Yeah.
if I want to have a great workout or just like pump myself up, I always go to their Coachella set alive on
Yeah.
Spotify, or you can also find it on YouTube.
Yeah. Was that like 2010,
I
11? I'm
think
trying to think.
7.
7? Okay, I was
Yeah,
before that. Yeah, yeah.
yeah. So
Nice. So I have to plug in my computer really quick.
yeah, do that. And we're gonna cut this part out. So
Yes.
I'm just
Sorry.
saying it so I can find it in the post production afterwards. It's so
Well,
cool that I can search for any word that we've spoken.
and do you use Descript or what do you use for editing?
No, I'm doing everything in Riverside.
Oh, nice. Oh, cool.
It's
Nice.
like the best software for podcasting, I feel.
I want to do this one. All right. I think that's okay. Cool.
In the pre-chat, we spoke a little bit about like ADHD, and I see so many things in you that I have, like except for the drug use. But you're ambitious, you're creative, and like ADHD, lots of energy, lots of ideas. How do you design a social life and friendship that are sustainable when your mind is always chasing the next thing? Because I also had that period where I was like just wanted more and more friends, bigger and bigger social circles, going to more and more parties and events and traveling even more. And now I'm just like, I'm a family man as well. I'm having kids. I don't have the same energy, but and I also moved out on the to the countryside. I don't live in Stockholm anymore. So
Yes.
that also made me much much more grounded.
Yes. So, how to design a sustainable social life with ADHD?
Yeah.
One, I've had to give up on the idea of sustainability. I just
Yeah.
accept that nothing I've ever done has been sustainable and nothing that probably ever will be.
Yeah.
However,
I love that.
what you've mentioned is my environment and mostly my environment. I can design a life in which like sustainability doesn't matter as much, right? Like I'm the way that I'm like to spend my time or the way that my chaos manifests supports that environment and that life.
Hmm.
And I get into trouble when I try to put a bunch of self-imposed boundaries around myself because I'll just blow those up. But when I moved to the beach in Los Angeles and I ditched my car and everything, and I had a surfboard, a skateboard, and I hosted moon circles on the beach. I forgot I had ADHD. I was just flowing, baby.
Yeah.
And of course, then I stepped back. I was like, okay, I'm gonna build this. I'm gonna get to $50,000 months. I'm gonna build this business. I'm gonna structure all these things, and then of course, all of these unsustainable habits start to crop up around me.
Mm.
And so learning to just love and accept that when sustainability arrives, I'm grateful for it. But that I personally, I'm done fighting against that side of myself. And
Mm.
my friends love and accept me for that. And some friendships have fallen away as they've started to make different choices. But I'll say, a lot of my friends have kids that are between like 2 and 5 right now. And like I love that age of kids. And I love being the cool uncle friend. Like they like me coming into that life and being super fun and present. And I can play for hours with them. And I don't think a past version of me would have wanted that.
Mm.
But that's one way that I'm able to show up in their lives in a way that I don't think I would have been interested in before.
Mm. So you mentioned friendship there, and what did showing up for friends look like in your early 20s, and what does it look like now?
I'm so grateful for the way that my friends showed up for me, especially. I actually just called one of my best friends. She hired me at her startup and allowed me to move out of New York to Cleveland at the time. A couple years after my mom died, I was living the New York life, which was just absolutely crazy, but I was really crashing out. And I was able to work there and be with her. And when I look back on my journals and my time in my life, it was just so much chaos and craziness and darkness. And I just called her to tell her I love her and thank you for that. And she was like, I didn't really notice. She was like, I had so much fun. Like we had a blast while we were there hanging out. And so one of the things that I've started to realize is that I'm really hard on myself sometimes. And I see these ways that maybe I feel like I didn't show up for people or friends. But 70, 80% of the time, it's in my head, right? And I actually was quite present for them in a way that was supportive for us as friends. And so what showing up then meant versus now, I think then I was able to show up with ignorance and naivete of just like being me. And now with all of my personal development and thinkiness and awareness, I'm able to show up with like a beginner's mindset of not bring all that baggage of I'm this healed person and I'm better and like all of those things, and like to put that shit aside and just be a person with
Yeah.
them.
What have helped you to design a life that you want to live? Like this show is called Lifestyle Design. You're living life with an intention. You're trying to create stuff. You are consciously calling yourself a partying coach. You're having a business. You're living in Chicago. You have a certain direction in life. What has helped you? And I'm not only talking about like, yeah, because you have ADHD, I don't like to just like label that on anybody because it's a deep rabbit hole we can dig into in another podcast. But for you specifically, you mentioned that you can't have too many rules or structures, but you've said that you like going and creating parties is some form of structure. You are journaling, that is also some form of structures. Are there anything else that has helped you in order, like with ADHD, to design a life that you're happy with?
By far the most effective tool that I've ever developed is just a spiritual practice. An emphasis on practice. That shows up in lots of different ways. It's meditation, yes, it's gratitude, it's journals. I pray a lot. And I ask for guidance and energy from what I believe is like a higher power, higher self. And all of my studies of dopamine and willpower and structure and all of those things, I would trade every single one of them for a simple spiritual practice.
Interesting.
And I don't like to talk about, and that is the one area of like, you can probe me and I might ask it, but I find it kind of cringy to talk about spiritual practice because I think rightfully so, when I hear people talk about spirituality, I was like, oh, they're healed or they're chosen by God or higher power to like do something. It's like that's not what I see. And that's not my experience of it at all. And I think it's a very personal thing. But I've been able to accept, love, do, succeed, fail, all of those things. I love my life 20 times more today than I did in my early 20s because I've developed a spiritual practice.
Can you share your practice and how do you pray?
So sometimes it looks like this. Are you familiar with the artist way at all? You heard of
No,
the artist way?
no.
Beautiful. Oh, I can't wait to share this with your listeners. So the artist way is a 12-week, I think it's called like a spiritual path to creative recovery. And it's for anyone, it's aimed at like artists, writers, musicians, but anyone who's building or trying to create things in the world. And there's a couple components to it. Like you go on these artist dates every week where you just take yourself on a date to go engage in art, right? And sort of like if you want to be a creator, you have to be consuming creation. But part of it is morning pages, which is this idea of a kind of a dump every morning of just free writing. And I used to just dump out, and my early writings when I would do this every day was a lot of just anger and like, this isn't working out and I keep fucking up. And it was just like a lot of that, which was good as part of it. What a spiritual practice looks like for me now, what she suggests in this book, The Artist's Way, is to God, what would you have me create today? What would you have me do? How would you have me be of service today? Where do my hands belong? Where do my feet need to be? Where does my mouth need to speak? And I literally type and ask that and try to get out of my head and just let stuff flow out of me. And I don't get clear answers every day, but the answers that I get have led me to this party coach to be able to serve so many people that I ever thought. I was so scared that my life would have no purpose or I would have no legacy. And honestly, I'm like, I love my life today. I've achieved pretty much everything I want to, and everything from here is bonus. And so I my spiritual practice looks like a right sizing of my ego by trying to serve what the universe might need today.
Beautiful. Amen. Do you say
Amen.
amen? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you have a spiritual practice?
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
meditation. And I was raised with, I had a Muslim mother, so I'm really close to Islamic traditions. But I'm mostly raised by my dad, who was an atheist, but he believed in love. He had no like spiritual practice, but he was like, yeah. I think it was in I was like 16 when I started. I was training a lot of martial arts, but I also did yoga, and I loved Bruce Lee, and I knew like the philosophical side. So I was really into Buddhistic practices.
Hmm.
So a lot of Buddhist prayers in my when I was 16, 18, in my 20s, been praying a lot. I've It's not like I'm having that as a daily practice. It just like comes and goes. And I found myself actually last week. I was like just like so overwhelmed, and I just stood here in this studio, and I just like bent my knees to the floor, put my head to the ground, and I just like did a prayer in Arabic, and that just reset my whole system. And but I believe having a spiritual practice is really important, because when I'm practicing, I feel that. I feel a lot of grace in my life.
Yes. And I'll offer one other thing because it was suggested to me before I believed in prayer. Like I grew up in the church, but like, spent most of my 20s and a lot of time not really connected to it. And as I was reconnecting, someone made the suggestion that, if you're feeling lost or stuck or things around sobriety of like you don't want to pick up a drink or a drug or um they're like the most humble place you could get is kneel down before your toilet and put your arms on the toilet and put your head right here and just ask God for like the willingness to take the next right action, or ask
Mm.
like this thing to be like, God, I ask for this compulsion to be removed from me just for this moment. And for weeks I was like, no way I'm doing that. Like zero chance I'm getting down on my toilet. And then one day, one of those Fridays, I got down. and I was, wanted to go do something crazy.
Mm.
And yeah, I just like asked. And when I stood up and like looked down at the toilet, that compulsion had left me. I have no explanation for how or why that happened, but yeah. So
Love it.
that was my great spiritual experience.
I love it. Oh man, I would love if you could share like 5 to 10. It depends on like how quick you can come up with them. Party ideas. You mentioned like a yoga where we're having loud music, the CrossFit that with the boombox. Can you share other like great ideas that we can just like steal and throw a party and connect with people?
Yeah. So something I've been enjoying lately is I'm doing a whole like reread. I'm going back through the Iliad and Odyssey, all of the
Mm.
Greek plays, all of the great books, and Plato and the Greeks. And if you want to find some weird, cool party ideas, like the Greeks and the Romans had these wild just rituals and dances and things. And I'm going to struggle for some specifics right now, but like I do believe diving into rituals and traditions from the past and modernizing them is really helpful because sometimes it can just feel really silly and stupid if you're just creating something out of thin air. But if it has some friction to it, right? Like people back 2,500 years ago, would uh, you know, they would do rituals of just like candle burning with their friends where they'd come over to like a temple and they would chant some words and like literally do something like that. Like do something that feels like a little sacred and a little weird, right? So
Mm.
that's one example. The second is this is probably the most accessible is combining some sort of fitness with music, right? There's all these run clubs now that they'll put on like speakers on their back and they'll go for a run,
Hmm.
right? And blast music while you go do that. Oh, so I'm hosting a party next week, my first one in a while. It's an admin party, like administrative party,
All
where
right.
people are coming over on a Tuesday night and people are bringing their taxes, like their airport points, like all of this stuff you've been avoiding. And we're gonna sit down and for 45 minutes we're gonna do that, and then we're gonna, like drink or hang out, and then we'll do another 45 minutes. But you're gonna come and get your administrative tasks done coming over to a party.
Just letting my listeners know, I'm gonna throw an admin party next
Yes,
week because I need one.
yes,
I desperately
yes,
need one.
yeah. So those are good. And then finally, like bring back the dinner party, like it's so, yes, it's going to take some effort. And you
Mm.
don't need to have a perfect house. You don't have to have a room to do it. When I was in New York, I remember having people over. I lived in a matchbox small apartment in New York. And we would sit on my queen size bed and we would just like sit in there and like eat Chinese food. But we were like in a place together having a dinner party on my bed. And please don't let your economic situation or that impede your ability to take part in whatever a party can feel like. And yes, it's nice to spruce things up and clean things up and I encourage you to do that if you can, but the whole idea is just to do it. And it doesn't have to be 20 people. It can be 3 people, you know, 3 people's a party.
Yeah.
So I know those are a couple good ideas.
Yeah, those were good. You have to be the judge if this is a party. This is a weird idea that's from Sweden, from close by. Having a yoga class with goats,
Oh yes, goat yoga.
goat
Yeah.
yoga. And then I've
Yeah.
also heard about bear yoga, where you drink
Yeah.
beer and do yoga.
Yes.
You have hard rock yoga, listen to
Well,
hard
what's
rock
what's was
music.
it fika? What was it? What's this
Fika,
first?
yeah, Swedish
Fika? Yeah.
fika. Yeah,
Yeah.
we're partying all the time with the
Yeah.
fika.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
2 times a day at least.
Yeah. Where's the that place that's under the bridge in Stockholm? There's
Yeah,
like a big outdoor.
Kungsträdgården.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I've been to some great parties there. Yeah.
Yeah, outdoor parties.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, Swedes are not bad at partying.
Yeah.
Uh,
Well, it's and here's another thing. So what they were so good. this music label that I worked at, Sweden, we would
Sony.
do Epidemic.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Epidemic Sound. Yeah.
we would do, I think it was once or twice a month, but we'd have company-wide things or office-wide meetings, but they would close with, we would do a music quiz. So it would rotate who was in charge, but you would choose like 10 songs, and then you would create kind of a quiz around that. So people would have to guess like either the artist or the years that it was born, but everything was an opportunity to turn it into something that was a little fun and
Mm.
turn it into something like that. So
Mm.
just, yeah, you can party at work, allow the creativity to flow.
I would want to have a, so I'm thinking about what type of party would I want to have, and I'm gonna throw that party, and I would love to have a, and I've experienced something similar to this in Stockholm. It was summer. It was a huge park. Can't remember the name, and there was this MMA club that threw a wrestling party. It was also
Yes.
like a submission wrestling tournament that
Yeah,
I
yeah.
participated in, and I came to the semifinals. But it felt like like such a party. It felt like a happy event, and it was fun, and it was. But there was no music, but it's a party, even if it's no music. So, just again for everyone listening, but especially for me, could you like define a party again?
Party is to take part in, to
Mm.
participate.
Yeah.
And that's gonna, it should mean different things to different people. Party is not isolation, and a party is not all inclusive. If a party is for everyone, it's not a party. But there needs to be some friction, some groundedness. And nobody wants to be at a party that every single person's invited to, right? Like there should be something about it that is unique and exclusive. So I'd say party means to take part in, and what it's not isolation, just like going to just be by yourself, and it's not everyone's invited. There's some sort of like bounded energy of specificity around this is a specific type of thing that some people are going to belong and other people are not.
Mm. Have you been to a really bad party? And what is a
Oh
bad
yeah.
party?
So bad parties are typically a couple categories. One is I call chasing nostalgia, which is it's trying to recreate something, like carbon copy something from before, right? So
Mm.
sometimes this can manifest as like, oh, the boys are back in town and we're all going to go back to the same bar, or we're going to do the thing that we did 15 years ago. And everyone is just in such different places in their lives
Mm.
that it's not working, and you're trying to force something that's not there. And I think that the word force is the biggest thing. And this is why partying is an art. There's not a science to it.
Yeah.
But if it's forced, it's really tough. And the others, there's a lot of spiritual parties and sober parties and ecstatic dances and things that are trying to recreate kind of like the chaos carefreeness, but are forcing people to do so. They haven't curated the right energy, but they haven't created the right environment for people to actually like let go or be in that space.
I would love if we could unpack that a little bit and have ecstatic dance as an example. So, how do we create or throw in ecstatic dance party the right way with the right setting and framing?
This is again somewhere where I'm less confident I have the right answers. You know it when you feel it. And let me see if there's anything I
Let's
really
say you're
concrete I
gonna
have to
you're gonna
offer on it. Yeah.
so let's say that I'm calling you on WhatsApp tomorrow, and I was like, even I loved our conversation. I couldn't sleep. I was just thinking about I want to throw an ecstatic dance party because I love dancing. I love ecstatic dance parties. We're doing it sober. I have a venue. What are some mistakes I should avoid, and what are some things I should think about?
So start with, why, as someone who's like not never thrown something like this before, why does it need to be ecstatic dance right now? Right? Like, have you built a community of people that you know are stoked into this? Do you have people that have been to these before? So I would start with like, why this right now? Right? Not that we shouldn't jump in and try things.
So what would be a good reason?
So let me come back to again what party's not. So like it's not forced. That again to me it's feeling a little forced, right? Like I want to create this ecstatic dance thing. If it coming from a place of I want to feel more energy, right? Let's start from here. Perfect. All right. Morgan wants to feel more energy.
Yeah.
I feel energy at ecstatic dance.
Yeah.
All right. Beautiful. Where are you going to find people that are also like wanting to feel this energy? How would you go about building that guest list?
I would just post on social media and ask people to join an interest list.
Yeah.
Or an
Yeah.
event on I think I know maybe 10 people in this little town of 100,000 people in this little town that I'm living in that would find it interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. And so this would be my suggestion around that is but grounded in the, have a story to it, right? Of like, I'm not feeling energy right now, right? It's for winter or because I'm not sleeping, right? Like have a story around it, not just I'm doing this for the sake of doing it, but like build that story and get people invested in the story of why they might feel energy in this type of a thing. And also accept that, the first time or the first 5 times might feel a little different and weird. Oh, this is another thing that I also offer people. If you're partying right, a third of the time is going to be great. A third of the time is going to be just okay. And a third time is going to be bad. That's just, that is the facts, right?
Yeah.
like you can't escape that there's going to be different, and you can cut that up any way you want, right? But if you try to make every single party great, you will never have a great party. Except that a third of them are going to be not as good, a third are going to be okay, and a third are going to be great. And that's maybe what I should have started with is that is just the nature of risk taking and what it means to put things out into the world.
Yeah. The guys you coach, is it mostly guys or is it women as well?
It's everyone.
Yeah. And what are they often struggling with?
So
do you have a common theme?
Yeah, a lot of times it's, and I can do a better job of explaining this, but this is people that have just a lot of times it's men in their 25 to 40, maybe have spent time in the party scene and either are not drinking as much or have stopped drinking or are making health decisions. Maybe they've gotten married, maybe they have a kid. And they're feeling this, like, I want to party, but every time I do, I feel it doesn't feel as good as it used to feel. I feel lost. I don't have this release valve. I'm lonely. I'm anxious. I'm stuck. But usually I do sometimes get people that are very introverted and have not really partied at all. And I love working with those people. But that has just not been my experience. So I always start with, like, I'm willing to help and support you, but know that I'm only working from my own experience, and there's probably lots of things that you have experienced, being much more introverted that I'm just not as familiar with. But I have a lot of really happy clients that have come to me from that as well.
What's a big lesson that you've gotten from coaching other people?
Humility. I think a lot of us that go into coaching do so because we want to give back. We want to help, right? We want to be supportive in the world. And what I've learned is while it's possible that I can provide that value, the more humble I am and the more I believe that the party is actually teaching them, or that the universe, or that it's way something other than me and bigger than me is actually providing that change for people. And it's not my unique abilities that have created a process for Party Coach. That's the way that it might manifest. But I've learned that if I get too confident in my process and way and ideas, that I can screw things up pretty bad. Or if not hurt people, I can create false sense of hope or create a false sense of stuff that I'm a cheerleader, ultimately.
Yeah,
like I'm here to like cheerlead and show people what's possible, but not think that like my way is the right way or that I have it all figured out.
Yeah. Is there a common theme on sticking points that you see in clients?
Like objections to why they don't want to work with me?
No, no, no. Like you start to work with them and they hit this hurdle. If there's like this hurdle that when I coach guys, it can be that the stretch of becoming uncomfortable can be too much sometimes. So we have to regulate it for them so they can like just take that next step. So the hurdle is not like too high of a jump for them.
Yes. Inevitably there's going to be talks about what you're consuming. And that's everything from drugs and alcohol to social media to porn to food to diet, right? And changing our inputs
Mm.
is really difficult for people. A lot of people want to give up or change before the miracle happens or before the change happens, right? And the patience to abstain. Oh, we didn't get to talk. I wanted to ask you about your 2 years of celibacy
Mm.
and sort of what that meant to you, because sometimes those things like that are I ask clients to abstain from things that just feels impossible to them. And sometimes that's sticking points that are just they're not able to do that at this time in their lives. And that's okay.
Yeah. Are you asking me about my
Yeah, yeah,
celibacy?
yeah. Yeah.
So I think it's a different motivation than why people regularly go into celibacy. So it was in my not my sexual prime, but when like my testosterone is like really high, and I was in this space where easier for me to get girls. I didn't have that like self image of being an attractive man when I was younger because I was fat. People thought I looked like a girl. People actually thought I was a girl. So that self belief and that self talk and that self image didn't transform up until like in my early 20s. So when that's shifted, I started just like catching up with lost time of dating and meeting girls. So and I started to get in this habit, and I could see the same thing over and over and again because it was just me going on a date, meeting a girl, falling like madly in love, dating for like a couple of months, and then the same thing happened. The voices in my head was like, "This is not the one. This is wrong," and that, and so like the warning signs. So, and I didn't know it had to do with an attachment style that I had.
Interesting.
So, for me, going into celibacy was quite easy because I did that before when I think I was 17 or 18, because I was challenging a friend that was smoking. I was like, why the hell do you smoke? We were supposed to be soccer pros. That was our aim and mission when we were younger. And he was like, no, it's so freaking hard. You don't understand. Let me ask you a question. Is it harder for you to quit smoking or quit having sex and masturbating? He was like, no, 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 quitting having sex and masturbating, it's much harder than quitting smoking. So I'll make a deal with you. So I will not, I will go into a no fap, no, but that's like a popular concept now where you don't masturbate, you don't have sex, you don't touch yourself. And I did that for 6 months easy because I was challenging. It was a
Hmm.
competition as well. So for me, competing is a way for me to it makes me more invested and more engaged, and I follow through more easily if I'm being challenged.
Yeah.
But being celibate for 2 years was not a challenge. It was me going from having girlfriend to the next one to the next one, seeing the same pattern over and over again, getting sick of myself, and then having a Norwegian shaman telling me that you need to take a break. So I was getting out of a relationship, and he was saying, okay, you need to take a break and be with yourself, because if you're not, you're going to as you the same person into the next relationship. So I didn't listen to his advice. I went into the next relationship, and that relationship was so freaking painful. I can't say she was a psychopath or whatever, but it was so freaking painful. I lost a lot of money. I lost myself. I lost pieces of my soul. I was unrecognizable. That was one of the low points of my life. And then I understood what I needed to do. I need to go and just like be celibate. And those 2 years was, yeah, maybe the two best years of my life.
I've done periods of sobriety in my life, and I also did 2 years sober. And during that time, I did, yeah, did no dating, nothing like that. I don't know if I was not that strict, but was pretty quite strict over that time. And the gift for me, I'm now reaping those rewards of like the spiritual connections that I'm able to have. I feel like we're born out of that asceticism of being able to abstain from those things for that period of time. What do you feel like? Do you feel any gifts from that time, or
Yeah,
what comes up for
yeah.
you around that? Yeah.
Like the biggest gift was that I feel like a rock in the presence of women.
Mm, yeah.
I don't get manipulated by sexual energy.
Yep.
So when a woman tries to like use her sexual energy to get her way or try to soften me or whatever, I just feel that I'm what's the word I'm looking for? So not desperate. And when you're not desperate and when you're not needy, you don't need anything, so many great things just comes to you. So during that period was the period where most women were just like throwing themselves at me because I didn't want anything from them.
Yes. Well, and so this is maybe a beautiful connection back to, again, clarifying what party within means. It's that ability to be able to party without needing the external thing, right? It's
Mm.
knowing that you have an innate value. It's the ability, I used to need to get a drink the first time I walked into a party, or have something in my hand, or those things. And it's still a process, but the ability to know that within me is the party, and I've done like the work and the energy, and if I'm lacking that I can create value and purpose in the moment, anywhere, anytime. That's the party within.
Yeah. Have you struggled with people pleasing?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, because that's been one of my biggest struggles. So like coming into a party, I always needed to be like the light of the party, lifting everything up, lifting people up. Just even though I was sober, I really knew how to have a great time. I was enjoying myself actually, but get not having the need to get that external validation or make sure that the outer environment is quote unquote okay or in a lighter mood has given me like so much peace. And that is something that has happened to me recently, that I can just be here and I don't need to manipulate or affect what's going on in the surrounding.
Yes.
That has been one of my greatest sense of relief, together with letting go of what I need to do for my parents in order for them to be healthy. That's something I let go of when I did my Vipassana 2012. That was also like a huge release, and this was like my second biggest like shoulder drop, I would say.
Hmm. Yes. I've allowed myself to be much grumpier, to be much less, I'll go. I used to feel like I had to make every person at the party feel like they belong,
Yeah.
right? I would go around to like every single person. And now, some days I have the energy for that. And I genuinely love to do that. And other days I'll show up and I'll be present for a little bit, and I'll take a walk, or I'll go lay in the coat closet. Like I was like, I just don't need to I don't need to perform right now. And that's okay. But that's been really slow, of allowing myself to not have to manipulate.
Mm. Do you gift books?
Yes.
Yeah. What's a book that you mostly give as a gift?
And I'm going to go to my bookshelf right here, see if I can
Let's
pull
see.
some out here. Yeah. What do I want to gift? Oh my gosh, there's such good ones back here. This is a little more in like the fiction side, but I love Dostoevsky. So this is Dostoevsky's Demons.
Mm.
Have you ever read any Dostoevsky?
No, just about Dostoevsky in school,
Yeah.
but never
Yeah.
read any of his work.
So Demons, who are Brothers Karamazov is like another big one. And these are big, thick books. And honestly, it's like you don't even have to read the whole thing. There's
Mm.
just he is a literary psychologist. He
All
writes
right.
these characters that are so full of like contradictions and so this specifically demons like all the characters kind of the demons eventually are thing all the isms, you know, the
Mm.
capitalism, the fascism,
Yeah.
the things like this, but very subtly moving into these characters as they move in and out of them. And I find, you know, I've done lots of self-help books and stuff, but I find fiction to be much more, there's more friction. Like my life has changed more by great fiction than it is by a lot of the self-help just flows in one ear and out the other. So I try to gift fiction books when I gift
Mm.
them to people. But my other book that I do give to people that I do think is valuable is Power of Now, Eckhart Tolle.
Eckhart Tolle. Yeah,
Yeah.
legend.
Yes.
Yeah, that book has changed so many lives. It's beautiful
Yes.
to see.
Yeah.
And he's so it's funny and also super comforting to listen to him.
Yes.
Yeah, like his humor comes just from another source.
Yes.
If you could put any quote on the billboard for millions to see, what would it be and why?
The party is within.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I love that. Do you have merch? The party is within.
No, I
You
need
should
to
create
get on
merch.
that. Yeah.
I want a T-shirt.
Yeah.
That's so freaking true. The party is within. Yeah. And what is one of the best or most worthwhile investments you've ever made in yourself? Could be an investment of money, time, or energy.
I already mentioned the spiritual practice,
Yeah.
which again it is up there. Yeah, like physical fitness. I was always just a very scrawny intellectual kid. I was praised for my intellect and was actively hostile to people who would go to the gym. You know, I was like, you know, meathead idiots,
Yeah.
you know, and finally was broken down enough by the world that I started CrossFit and then yoga. And I'm now a fitness instructor and I teach and best investment outside of spirituality is just accepting that fitness is just as valuable to me as a lot of the mental stuff I was doing.
Yeah. Isn't that an old Greek saying, sound soul in a sound body?
Hmm.
Yeah, I love that. And I think I can get an interesting answer from you here. What's something you believe that other people think is insane or just plain wrong?
I believe that the darkness, the pain, the suffering, the addictions, the grief, like all that stuff is so good. And life would be
Mm.
so boring without it. And I believe that the most powerful force in the universe is not love, it's boredom. And ultimately, love is very close. Like, love is a result of, it's almost the opposite of boredom. It's being infatuated by things, but that God consciousness or whatever, like everything is a product of boredom. And so much of our vices and everything are a product of not loving the beauty and being bored instead. So, and the reason why we have grief and all of these things is just because we're bored and it's boring to just love things all the time. We need to have other stuff to move us and grow us.
Hmm. Yeah, totally agree. And if you had to define success for yourself in one sentence, what would it be?
Success is being in love with now, being able to love my life today and not be in regret about decisions I made yesterday or before, and to not be in fantasy or delusion about the impact I'm going to have or all the things that are going to happen.
And has your definition changed over time?
Yes, used to think that I really thought I needed to write a book and I needed to have I have a couple reality shows that started. They were going to develop them around me, and I was like, well, that's what I need to be successful. You know, that's going to reach the most people. And uh, letting go. I did a whole one piece of development that was very helpful, I did a fears inventory where you kind of, what are your fears, and you track them down to what are the kind of the common fears. And a very common one is, yeah, like my life will have no legacy was the fear. And I'm kind of okay if I don't. I love the opportunities that I get to serve and be today.
What is the worst advice you see or hear being dispensed in your world around socializing, connection, partying, or living fully?
The worst advice that I hear, a lot of it is the therapization of social life, attachment styles or personality types, or I think those things could be useful, but I think when it comes down to our friends and the people we're around, if we're constantly in our heads about I'm this type of person and I need to fit in with this, it's too much in our heads. So I think that like the over therapy, over personal development of just what it means to be human with other humans. And I realize I am part of the problem on that, right?
Yeah.
But I hope that I could be a filter through which people can come through and let go of those labels or those things on their path to belonging, acceptance, and action.
I love your answer because it gets me to reflect. And I feel that I've been in that prison where everything is getting diagnosed. And like, for example, like looking at the issues I've had with my wife, I'm trying to look at, okay, what are the values? What are the attachment styles? What are our signs? What are our da 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 yada yada yada? Six Human Needs, Tony Robbins, Esther Perel. So you're just like over fucking yourself in the head,
Yes.
trying to figure out what is going on here. And the best solution was to just like relax and have some fun. Don't think so much about it. The power of now. Just be present.
Yes.
Don't point fingers.
Yes.
Is there anything we should have mentioned that we haven't talked about?
It's interesting. You just mentioned the word fun, and I noticed it didn't come up as much in here, which makes sense. I'm not really prioritizing it right now, but I do think so. For about a year and a half, I had an offshoot of something. It was called the No Fun Club, as in KNOW fun. Like we know what fun is. And the whole idea was to kind of explore, what is fun? And actually scientifically, we actually do not have a definition of fun. It's almost impossible for people to figure
Really?
out because some people find, you know, people find reading Dostoevsky fun, and other people find, doing ecstasy and raving in a club fun. And even when you try to break it down to enjoyment, it's not like David Goggins. It's fun for him to, like to go and so like it's just really hard for us to define what is fun. And so I actually don't talk too much about it, but I think it's worthy of, if you've been listening to this and you're like, like you didn't talk about fun at all, like fun is possible for you. Even if you don't feel like it's there, even if you feel like you don't deserve it, if you feel like you're too serious or too cynical, or you screwed up your life enough that you don't deserve it, I just wipe that clean because you're going to have fun. Let go of some of those things. And I will end with maybe this quote, which I think Alan Watts cropped from somewhere. Our natural state is ecstatic wonder. We should not settle for anything less.
Wow. Beautiful. Mic drop. Love that. Where can people connect with you?
Yeah, so if you just search Party Coach on Instagram or TikTok, I'll pop up. I do have a site, and there'll be some things that are dropping over the course of the year right now. But the greatest gift for me would be just take what you've learned here and implement it in your life. Take action. Don't take notes, take action. Throw parties. Go be of service. Go. Partying will save humanity if you just show up for your life, if you participate in life. And that would be the greatest gift that you could give to me.
Even I want to thank you not just for like showing up, but for I think you've awakened something in me, and I feel a stronger reason for throwing parties because for quite some time I felt that I don't want to live continue living in this city. It's something I've discussed with my wife for many, 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 many years. We moved to Portugal, tried to homeschool our kids, didn't work out as we thought. We had to go back home. We're here again, trying to just like accept how things are, but haven't had like the time or the energy to like start creating situations or gatherings where I connect with other people, because that is such a huge part of my DNA. Not
Hmm.
because I'm maybe because I'm half Egyptian, or but like I'm always hammering down the word of community wherever I go. I just like need people. I want to be around other people. I want to be around brilliant people, funny people, interesting people, crazy people. I need people. I need to connect more. So super grateful for this conversation, and I got a lot of healthy mental snacks. Can you say that in English?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
That I take from this
Well,
conversation.
and if only if you offer it, they're not just mental snacks. They're spiritual snacks and
Yeah.
and things that nourish our body because I think you and I can both tend to live up here a lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that would be my other uh yeah, just invitation is yeah, check in with yeah, where does your soul like write out how can
Mm,
I best serve my community? How can I show up? And maybe it's an ecstatic dance party,
mm.
but see what universe speaks through you and see what comes up out of that.
Amen, brother. Thank you so
Amen.
much. And let's connect in a WhatsApp group.
Yes, yeah, let's do it. Yeah, we'll have to figure out what that could be around. Maybe you could teach me about UFC stuff. So I
Yeah,
need to
let's
get
have a
connected with that.
UFC stuff. And
Yeah,
if anybody want to join a community where we speak about men's work, just check the link below. I always put a link to my community on school where we can just like share ideas about personal growth within the men's workspace. So,
beautiful. Well, Morgan, thank you for your work, for yeah, just putting conversations like this, for creating a place where men can feel like they belong. And I see the party within you, brother, and stoked to share this earth with you. Party on.
awesome. Party on. I want to give you some value in this podcast, and thank you for listening. So let me give you something useful right now. Most men don't struggle because they're weak. They struggle because they're unclear. So not being clear. That's why I built the Manhood Mastery Quiz. It takes only 2 minutes, and it shows you exactly where you're crushing it and where life is crushing you, and what actually deserve your focus next. So you will get instant results, no email rabbit hole, just a clear snapshot of your life as a man today. Take the quiz, links in the show notes. Clarity is power, and power changes everything.